Presented by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. This is In Goal Radio, the podcast. We are getting it done with all kinds of fun while recording this episode. I was wearing a goalie mask for a little bit. Hutch is wearing some VR equipment. And Woody is doing his best Richard Gere impersonation with some big gray flow as he lets his COVID hair just grow out. It's unbelievable today. Picture that in your mind, ladies and gentlemen, as we navigate through this weird, silly season and into Halloween weekend. And today we are going to chat with two of the great mask painters of a couple of different eras. Greg Harrison, who did the old original fiberglass, right form-fitting mask right in your face, to Dave Gunnarsson, who is one of the more popular mask painters out there right now. It's Sweden and is great at the social media. So we'll get some Halloween content from that side of things. We will also welcome in a new partner with Sense Arena's Bob Tativa. It's a VR simulator, and we'll explain exactly what that is all about. And the product is outstanding. I can't wait to get my hands on it. A gear segment will feature from The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey, the Bauer UltraSonic chest protector. And then we will wrap it up with a conversation with Antoine Bibeau, who I knew as a junior and then came out and was drafted, sixth-round pick of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Was really, really highly projected. Ran into some injury trouble, but is a really fun conversation. And you'll have to stick around because just for gearheads out there and everybody that's so into their equipment, you're going to be shocked to hear what Antoine Bibeau has to say about his equipment. It's a really cool, fresh take on how we do things. But let's welcome in the co-founders of In Goal Radio, the podcast, In Goal Magazine, David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley. Hello, Woody. You're looking pretty womanish right there.
Well, the cashier recently at the Michael's Art Supply store felt that that long hair that I actually thought was blonde, she agreed with you and wondered if it was gray and wondered if I might be eligible for the 55 plus discount at her store.
Really?
So, yeah, I wasn't real thrilled about that. It might be time to get the salad trimmed just for that alone. I appreciate you piling on like that. Listen, Antoine Bibeau may say some things about his gear and knowledge of it that will shock gearheads, but he also gives us an exclusive scoop on the gear he will be wearing next year. Sent me some pictures, too, of the designs he's working on. So a little gear switch for Antoine Bibeau, and the gearheads will appreciate the fact that he shares it here first on the In Goal Radio podcast. So we've got gear news coming.
I like it. Well, my good buddy John Garrett, every now and then will just send me a note and said, got a fresh dip, got the hair colored. You just might have to get in touch with Cheech in the lower mainland of BC and go to his location for a little bit of coloring because, just the all white equipment, which Antoine Bibeau wore at one point, just needs to be spiced up a little bit. And that goes for your bucket too.
Yeah, I know, but I'm a little worried that maybe all of that hair dye that Cheech is using may be the reason he also dips his pizza in ketchup, and I don't want that trend to be something that catches on with me. I think from a culinary aspect, we might have some trouble there.
Hutch, I'm looking forward to hearing the conversation with Greg Harrison and Dave Gunnarsson and just how it relates to Halloween, because you come from an era that's similar to mine. We kind of cross over a little bit, and the intimidating mask art, I know, is something that you and I have an extreme fondness of.
Absolutely. Grew up on masks. It's huge. I wore a fiberglass mask. I'm old enough that I could have gray hair just like Woody does, except I just have no hair. But I actually wore a fiberglass mask when I first started playing, and I've loved them ever since the day I started. In fact, my first venture into entrepreneurship as a young goaltender was in grade 6, selling sketches of NHL masks to my classmates for $0.10 a piece.
Do you think anybody still has one of those beautiful works of art?
I would be floored, but I still have the book that I traced them out of.
Oh, you didn't go freehand.
Copyright infringement started early with this one.
Gosh, no.
Wow.
I don't have that skill.
Who do you think had the most intimidating mask of all time?
Oh, right out of left field. You said last week we were just going to talk about favorites, and so I'm sort of thinking in that respect. I mean, Harrison talks about a couple of the most intimidating ones. in the interview. Bromley was one that comes to mind. I more, as we talked last week, thought about a favorite, which, you know, in a way is a little bit Halloween-y, and that's Ken Dryden's original pretzel mask, which is what he wore when I first fell in love with the game. And I really love the old masks, even pre-paint, how they would sort of fit a personality.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, you know, I think of Rogie Vachon with that little smiling face that sort of, to me, epitomized, you know, who he was and how he played.
Sawchuck's mask.
Yeah, well, actually, there's a scary one, right?
Yeah.
From pre-paint. So Gilles Villemure, I don't know if you remember that one when he played for the Rangers, and I remember that one very well. So many of them, and I just love the character that the individual mask makers brought to the art at the time.
I'm a little surprised, like the Graton mask was so famous and continues to live in infamy, that more people didn't go down that path with that kind of realistic, just in your face. Wow, like you couldn't help but skate by, or even if you're not a hockey fan, flip the pages and go, what is that?
Has anybody ever asked how long that piece of art took to create too? We probably did in one of the interviews, but that was groundbreaking, not just in that, you know, in the type of paint job it was, as you're talking about there, but I think just the time investment in that piece of art. Like, how many people could do that back then?
No, it's
just incredible stuff.
We'll have to ask. Well, definitely, Hutch, that's a good call. I never did ask when we talked to Greg this time. But I did read a story where Graton said it was, Graton himself said it took his artist a week to do that. And I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. For me, you want scariest?
Could be on Ingle. Could be on Ingle, because we've got an old interview with Graton from my old friend Michel Godbout, who we've spoke about with Franz Jean on here.
We've got so many interviews, we can't even keep track of them, which is why you never delete the cards, Hutch. The one that I loved was, I didn't even know of this mask until Greg Harrison mentioned it as one of his, you know, the ones that people would associate with scary. And then I looked it up. Warren Skurdinsky.
Yes.
I'm probably not even saying it right. That thing kicked ass. That skull mask that he had, like Bromley's was the one that I always knew about. That one took it to another level, man. That was intimidation. And the other one, and it's kind of similarly themed, the Bombers. Was it the Winnipeg or Manitoba Bombers from Youngblood movie? Another Greg Harrison mask that he built for the movie. Another skull mask. Those things were tough. I loved it.
Thunder Bay Bombers.
There you go.
That's because I actually listened to the interview before we got on to record this, and was Googling up a storm. Like Dr. Google is saying, what is going on in Las Vegas right now with hockey? Because there's all kinds of searches going on. The Skordinsky one just had a tweak of lunacy to it. Like, it was scary, but then there's you could almost see a screw loose coming off the side with that paint job that just sent it into to another category. Really fascinating.
Oh yeah, if you see that mask, you got to figure, if I cut through the crease, I'm eating some plywood. I am eating a stick for sure.
We'll get to our first conversation with Dave Gunnarsson, and then I want to come back to your favorite fiberglass paint jobs. And after we finish up with Greg Harrison, I want to know your best combo paint job, and gives you guys a couple of minutes to think about it right now as the eyes pop out of Dave Hutchison's head. But here is Dave Gunnarsson from Dave Art, and it talks about the connection, the links to scary masks, and how he even made himself part of the artwork. Dave Gunnarsson in conversation with Kevin Woodley.
Tell me if I'm stretching here. The link between Halloween and scary masks and NHL painting, like NHL goalie masks. Is there a link there?
Yes, I think so. Absolutely. Very many goalies want scary stuff on the masks. And of course, you have a lot of horror movies with hockey masks. So it's a link for sure.
It is. Now, what about you personally? I know I was looking at your gallery and the Alex Lyon masks in particular. Like, those are all scary movies on those masks. Is there a story there from Alex that led you guys down that path for all his masks so far?
It was when I started to work with Alex. it just popped up the idea to build his masks on horror movies. So it was just an idea that came up, and then we continued to build on that. So and myself, I'm a very big horror movie guy. So it's very fun to paint them. And a funny thing is that on his first horror mask, if you saw that one with the clown, the It movie.
From It, yep.
Yeah, and on that mask, I wanted to paint a poster with a kid that was missing, just like as in the movie. And first, my idea was to paint Alex himself as a missing kid, but he said that it's more fun to paint me, so I painted myself on that mask as a missing kid.
I didn't even realize that. Do a lot of people know that, or is it just me that's missed that?
I don't think so many people know that.
Okay, I'm going to have to look at that again and take a closer look. Now, I know you're a huge movie buff. Do you still have like a projector in the studio where you watch movies sometimes while you're doing
yes.
it?
Yeah, I have a cinema studio here where I sit. So I very often have a movie when I paint or when I sketch.
Now, is horror something you grew up watching? Like, and that theme, like, how'd you come to goalie masks and that tie-in? Is there any sort of personal history with sort of the horror theme, you liking horror movies? We all know the Jason masks and things like that. Other than your painting, did it ever tie into your love for goalie masks and cinema? Do you ever blend those two?
Yeah, I do love horror movies, but I also love all kind of movies. So I also love action and thrillers, and so it's not only horror for me.
I remember talking to you once about Corey Hirsch's Psycho mask.
Yes.
And did that play a role in sort of from an inspiration, or was that one you liked when you were younger, as you were getting started?
Yes, I remember it very well. It was when I was painting. I was playing EA Sports, like 92 or 93 or 94, something like that. And then back then they had a gallery with hockey masks in the game. And then I saw this Psycho mask, and I really loved it. So that's a mask I really remember. And then I started to think that it's very cool storytelling. And I felt I had a lot of ideas to do stuff like that myself.
One of the best in social media, Dave Gunnarsson and Dave Art. He puts out those boxes, and I always wonder what's in those boxes as he's about to ship the masks out. So I asked you guys your favorite fiberglass paint job, and this is more of a connection to our next guest that we'll hear from in Greg Harrison. But who is your favorite from the 60s, 70s, early 80s? And Grant Fuhr had a bunch of them, by the way, as I was going through. Like he's probably had more paint jobs and masks than anybody in the history of the sport. So many different formations. But let's start with you, Hutch, your favorite fiberglass.
Got to go off the board just a little bit, I think, as much as I love so many of those. When I was a youngster growing up just outside of Toronto, had no interest in the Vancouver Canucks or knowledge of them, but right then, Kurt Ridley's mask, which was sort of the crossed Canucks logo, struck a chord with me. The boldness of it and yet the simplicity of it. I think the color combination, which obviously just goes with the classic Canucks colors, struck me at the time. And that has always been my favorite. So as much as there's so many other great ones, and I love, the Graton one, of course, for its detail and so many others, but I always just keep coming back to that one. And then just with sort of an honorable mention to Ken Dryden. I've told it a million times. He's the guy for me when I was growing up, and that first painted, really the only paint job he had in the NHL, really struck me as well. So there you go. How about you?
I was a Flyers fan as a kid, and two of them. One, I always wanted a Bernie Parent one, which is strange because there's only the 3 stickers
Beyond
on it.
simple.
Yeah. But I always wanted a Bernie Parent one. but I do have a replica of Wayne Stevenson's mask, which is unbelievable.
Oh yeah, the orange
love
one
it.
with
The Flyer logos and the wings flying
the
off
eyes.
both sides.
Yeah.
And that's I have 3 fiberglass masks: Ken Dryden replica, a John Garrett replica, my buddy there, and I have
Nice.
Wayne Stevenson's mask. And Wayne Stevenson, I wasn't
Great one.
a fan of Wayne Stevenson's per se, but that mask is just that jumps out at me. What about you there, youngster?
There's so many, and actually, I was actually with Hutch. There's something about that Ridley mask. I was gonna cite that, but I guess I can't pick the same one. So, the other one that I like was Bunny LaRocque's, which we've actually reproduced for the Bunny Trophy. Jim Rutherford with the Detroit Red Wings as the eyebrows was one that really I liked. And then if I was going for a favorite, I think it would have been Dryden, but again, Hutch stole it. Deservedly so. You got to go Cheevers.
Stole it. I'm a leader, man.
Yeah, okay. He is the leader in the clubhouse. Cheevers, the original. It's not even painted, but just the one that started it all would be Cheevers. And funny enough, this is what led to these conversations, right, Darren? We talked about Halloween and masks. And as much as Cheevers was the first to sort of make it a part of his identity with the felt pens, the one that actually was the first paint job, to tie this back to Halloween, which is when people will be listening to this episode, was Doug Favell. And they just painted it orange on the day of a game because of the Flyers and Halloween.
There was no artwork to it. It was just painted it orange.
Just painted it orange.
I'm sorry, nobody said Palmatier. John Davidson had a great one. In the late 70s, had an outstanding mask. Bromley, you guys mentioned with the bones. Rogie Vachon, LA Kings. I'm trying to run down the list.
I was just going to say that for me, that's sort of the most disappointing paint job.
Really?
Because I loved the white mask and that smiley face standing out. And soon as it went dark with the LA Kings, it was just different. It was gone. That was such a disappointing day for me.
What about the
Sorry, Rogie.
What about the Snake, the Simmons mask?
Yes.
That was
Solid.
Again, that was also Greg Harrison. It was based off a Hot Wheels car. Evidently, the design, the snake was off some type of Hot Wheels car.
You're a Sierra. I love that mask too, and that was one that just I've always had an affinity for. Sierra had some neat gear too. But now player agent, but that's there's a whole bunch there, and artwork that was simpler yet complicated at times. Seemed to be more straight lines, or I don't know, boldness, something that you could to relate to. But then it got really, really intricate with the Graton that we discussed. But Greg Harrison was the forefront of the paint jobs and the mask design, and really at a time was really the guy that supplied most goaltenders in the National Hockey League and in professional sports with their masks. And he says the scary theme when we talk about Halloween or intimidating artwork was really not influenced by Halloween, but a byproduct more of the athlete's story. Here's Greg Harrison chatting with Woody.
So I guess the question is there a link? Like, do you see any type of natural link, whether it's scary masks over the years or some of the different themes? We know, obviously, Halloween, the movie series, and goalie masks. Like, is there some type of intrinsic tie between Halloween and this time of year and goalie masks?
No, I could say yes, that can be bullshitting, but no, not really. I mean, the masks that sort of go with that theme are, like Graton's mask with the lion's motif on it, and Gary Bromley's with the skull. The mask I did for fellow Jerry Giuliani, that was the goalie in Youngblood wearing the skull mask. Spordansky's as well. I mean, they're all sort of along that line. I get a kick out of everyone referring to the Jason mask as the Jason mask. Most people don't recognize or even know that it basically was a store-bought Plante mask, the early version of the store-bought Plante mask. That's what it was. And they just kind of marked it up and distressed it to make it look more sinister. But that's what it was. They actually, when they were doing the movie Freddy versus Jason, the movie company doing it called me and wanted to know if I could make replicas of the Plante mask. And I said yes, and I gave them a price and then never heard from them again. Because there was none available anymore. When the original movie was done, there would have been ones available. And then eventually they just adapted it and changed it. I'm trying to think if there was any other Halloween themed ones that I did, because I didn't think that way then.
Right.
It had to do with the player. It had to do with the city or something I was interested in, that I could tie into the mask, but always in keeping with something that was tasteful, which I cannot say is around now. When you got zombies on masks and this kind of stuff, it just, to me, it shouldn't be anyways. But I'm out of dealing with the NHL, so I don't have to worry about that anymore.
What do you remember? And obviously, there's different stories, and like I said, I appreciate actually you sharing the story about the Plante store-bought mask for Jason, because I wasn't aware either, right? And that's part of why I wanted to reach out to sort of get the right story and the real stories on some of these ties and tie-ins between masks and Halloween. And the other one was, there's so many different stories about that sort of that first paint job and Favel and the orange and the Flyers and I know that wasn't you, that was more a trainer, but what do you remember about that being do you remember it being an impetus at all for guys starting to paint masks, or is it more about Cheevers and marking his up that really started the trend?
I think the mask that Doug wore was a Higgins mask in Philadelphia.
Right.
And as far as I know, Frank Lewis painted it, and he was the equipment trainer there.
Right.
And it was done as more of a Halloween prank, I think, initially, painting it orange, because Favel's head, and you would have seen it in the mask that I made for him in Toronto, the second one especially, with the giant maple leaf on it. His head looked like a pumpkin. It was very round. There wasn't the shape of his head was round. The jawline just lent itself to that kind of pumpkin idea, and then they got sick of doing that. And Bobby Taylor, actually, his Higgins mask was, I believe, painted first with white with the black kind of triangles on it, and then Favel, they did and again, all of this, I'm pretty sure it was Frank Lewis, because I know I spoke to him. That same orange and then starburst mask became his first leaf mask, and Frank Lewis told me that he literally sprayed the mask white and then went to a maple tree in the front of his house and grabbed the biggest maple leaf he could find and put it on the forehead with the stem going down onto the nose and traced it out. Basically, that's how that design came about.
Oh, that's fun.
I changed it, when he came to Toronto. I did one bigger mask and then a 3/4 mask with the giant maple leaf. But my maple leaves were both right on the front, they took up the whole mask.
So there, I was just gonna say, there you go. Even though it's like you said, it would be BS to say that the evolution was tied to Halloween. That first one for Favel, or that first orange paint job, as much as it may have just been a joke or a hoax, definitely has ties to October 31st.
Yeah.
What some of your more famous, the scary theme? I know with Bromley, with the skull, as intimidating as scary as it looked, it was more just a play on his nickname Bones, because he was so skinny.
His nickname was Bones.
Yeah, because he was so skinny.
On the back plate, I did the word Bones. It's done like you'd take and made a font, basically using bones,
right,
as as the basis for it. Most people don't see that back piece.
Right now, I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's written across the top, bones.
Anytime you can call somebody Pumpkinhead, I'm in around Halloween. It's just it's like you get a free pass on that one. Hey, Woody, I know that there's part of your discussion, and for brevity, that's never been used in this podcast, but for just time purposes, it wasn't in there. But the Bob and Doug McKenzie, I didn't realize that he did all that.
I didn't know he
Strange
did.
Brew.
Yeah, and we're going to have this. People can check this out at ingoalmag.com on the premium site. We're going to add the rest of the conversation because, like you said, we've got so much content on the podcast today that we had to cut off Greg. But yeah, Greg Harrison, for those of us old enough to have watched Strange Brew and remember the black versus white sort of synthesizer music hockey game that was played in the brewery during that, Greg Harrison.
Mind Control.
Yeah, Mind Control, and all of the players, of course, were wearing helmets, like goalie style helmets, but built into full helmets, and then almost like Stormtrooper. And I apologize to Greg if that's not a fair description, but like Stormtrooper type, equipment, full body equipment. He designed it all, and he told that story to me. We didn't have time to get it in the podcast. We're going to make sure we roll it out as part of a bigger piece at Ingoal, sort of looking at the history of masks. He's got so many ties. The Freddy versus Jason series, they approached him about redoing the mask for Jason. It's Halloween. It's November 1st, right? And the first mask worn on November 1st falls this week. Jacques Plante, 1959. And there you go. Tie the two together. The Jason mask, according to Greg, was one of the early store-bought Jacques Plante masks. So it all comes together, whether we want to be scary or not, whether he wants to admit the theme is real or not. There's definitely some links between Halloween and scariness and goalie masks. They just kind of fit together.
We talked about our favorite form-fitting masks, the one without the cage, and we should mention that a few did have cages, Tony Esposito and Mike Liut, Don Beaupre as well.
Dave Dryden.
Dave Dryden. He wore one as well. What about the mask combo, the more traditional one that we see right now, and that we all wear when we go out? Your favorite paint job? We'll start with Woody on this one. When it comes to the current model of mask,
Don't steal mine, Woody.
I don't think I will. I gotta be honest with you on this one.
I think you will.
It's hard. There's so many good ones over the years, and I'm gonna miss some. Like Felix Potvin became iconic, and that was originally a Harris. And I like those masks that sort of had that identity. But I'm gonna go.
And he took it to all his teams, right? That's what I loved about the
right. Or as Greg told me for another article, a big feature I wrote in 2014, like we think of Eddie Belfour as Eddie the Eagle. Well, he wasn't Eddie the Eagle before Harrison put the eagle on the mask with the Blackhawks. And again, it continued because he became Eddie the Eagle. He wore that theme mask throughout the rest of his career as much as changing the theme from team to team. So yeah, those type of iconic masks have a place in my heart. That's when I was young, growing up and watching those goalies play. Marty Turco with the Gargoyles. But I got to be honest, it's sort of stealing Hutch's answer from the first one. Alex Ald's Ken Dryden tribute mask, I'm pretty sure that was a Dave Art creation, is one of the best modern masks I've ever seen. And we have it up at Ingoal Mag Premium where Alex walks us through it. The ability to take from a distance, it looks like a Dryden mask, but when you get close, there's images within the Dryden target of like Patrick Waugh, Jacques Plante lifting the mask all bloodied. Like all those iconic images are built into the underlay of it. To me, it's one of the best masks of all time. It doesn't get enough credit. I'm biased because Alex is a friend, but that's my favorite. Did I steal it?
So did he steal it?
Oh, he went 2 for 2. He went 2 for 2. I was gonna say Potvin. I've still got the old Potvin Coho pads in the house here. Loved him as a goaltender, and I love the look. And as you guys mentioned already, the fact that he carried it from team to team was huge. So if we could go with a similar goaltender I grew up watching a little bit, who also had his own look, I'll go with Cujo. That original Cujo look with the Leafs, and how he was able to blend his own look with some team symbolism and so on. I thought that was a little bit of a a bit of leadership in that look as well. I think Frank Cipra was the guy behind that design. And for sure, Aldi was the one I was going to pull out because it tied back to Dryden, and it's got that simplicity to it. Gosh, I don't know if I can replace it with something that's a little bit more modern. I'm gonna need a little time now that Woody's taken my Aldi.
I'll throw a couple at
Revenge.
you. Andy Moog and his Boston mask was awesome with the bear, and Bob Senza with the Winnipeg Jets, and that was a Greg Harrison piece of work, and it was outstanding with the planes on the forehead and the two sides. I have a replica paint job of that one as well, which is one of my pride and joys, and that one sticks with me. His complete setup with the Jets was outstanding, but there's two from a bygone era.
Yeah, my other one I had in the back of my mind I was going to pull out, guys, was Ron Tugnut. Had the paint splatter that
which
that
Cujo
Cujo
used a little bit too in Edmonton. That was a popular theme for a while. The paint splatter, and you see it every now and then. It resurfaces with the paint splatter, and so that's interesting. Marty Brodeur, like one of the simplest of, and never really wavered from that. Just the New Jersey logo.
Yeah,
on the
fantastic look.
I always wanted.
There's just so many. I mean, when guys are getting multiple masks a season, it's hard to keep up, and all the artists that we see today are just so talented. It's incredible.
Do you wish people would stick with one theme, or do you like all the different changes that are so unique, but total 180s from mask to mask with the different athletes?
Yeah, I'm 100% about the guy who can keep the same theme. I think it's but a mask being about an individual's personality and how it's so tied to the personality when it's just something different every year. I mean, a guy who's mentioned in our I don't think it actually made the cut for the podcast, but we talked to Kevin talked to Gunnarsson about Henrik Lundqvist, and that would be a look that was so. That was a look that was very team centered, city centered, and yet he made it his own. And so that might be a bit of an exception to an individual look. And yeah, we got a little scoop on the side that I don't think made the cut for the podcast. So what do you want to, anything in there?
Well, I think it was a safe to assume scoop, but when we called him and had our chat with Dave, he mentioned that he was working on Henrik's new mask for the Washington Capitals that day. He'd already been working on it. And so I think we can confirm the assumption that the Statue of Liberty, that iconic logo he created using the Statue of Liberty sort of frame and the king crown, will no longer be a part of Henrik Lundqvist's mask with the Washington Capitals. But he has more than a few prominent monuments and structures to work his way through now that he's in Washington. So I would expect that maybe one of those might appear. I didn't get any sneak peeks, but I can confirm. Breaking news that Henrik Lundqvist will not have the Statue of Liberty on his mask with the Washington Capitals. Hey, guys, you know what we forgot? Iconic masks.
Mike Richter?
That's another one. But
yes,
changing from team to team, I should have left you the Alex Auld mask, Hutch. How about Patrick Lalime with Marvin the Martian?
Oh, how good was that?
That thing didn't matter what team he was on, that thing was awesome. And again, you associated it with him.
You're right. And it was able to transfer through. It's tough to take the Statue of Liberty to anywhere else. That one's a difficult one.
Johan Hedberg and the Moose. That was one
Moose
of them.
Man.
That's the mask that sort of started it all. Not started it all, but really made Dave Gunnarsson, brought Dave art to a more prominent place on this side of the pond. He was already big in Sweden, but that mask with the Manitoba Moose, and then he goes on the run with the Pittsburgh Penguins still wearing the Moose mask from Manitoba. People are wearing like cardboard cutout antlers during the playoff run that they handed out for the playoffs in the stands. And then everywhere
that doesn't happen today.
No, everywhere that Johan went, the Moose was there. It was a part of all his masks. He rode an orca here in Vancouver. It was a moose riding a freaking orca, but you had to have the moose.
You don't wear a mask from a different team anymore. You have your backup mask that's whiter, and you wear that, or they put this the mask
wrap.
wrap on or something like that, and like Jack Campbell and did this year, and like wow, like that whole head brick thing never would happen today because you would just you would have it. If you do need a mask, the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey, would be a good place to check out.
Yeah, we're gonna have a little conversation coming up with Cam from the Hockey Shop, or as we call it, Goalie Utopia, about the new Bauer UltraSonic chest protector. I definitely suggest everyone listen to it. It's quite a unique piece, and I really like what they've done there. But in the meantime, if you're looking for an older chest protector, they're on sale. All the new stuff. We're in that time of year. It is weird the way COVID has changed sort of these windows for new gear, old gear. What it's created is more sort of gear that's in between. And a lot of it is on sale right now at thehockeyshop.com. If you go check them out, pretty much the entire Premier line. And we're going to talk about the new Axis chest protector next week in our gear segment with Cam. But the entire Premier line right now, one of my favorite chest protectors of all time, the pants, the pads, if you're someone that happens to have liked that model, is all on sale right now. I think we're talking like up to 40% off already. Keep your eye out for some of their Black Friday specials that they'll start to tease here in the coming weeks. But right now, just make sure you check them out at thehockeyshop.com. And if you can, in person at the Hockey Shop, source for sports in Surrey, because they've got a lot of items in the clearance rack right now and an opportunity to save some money ahead of next season's launch of new equipment in the spring.
They've been with us from our very first episode, a great partner, the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey. And this week, we are pleased to announce a brand new partnership with Sense Arena. And let's just tell everybody about this relationship and how it came to be and what it's all about.
Well, I'm going to let Hutch speak to the product itself because he's had a chance to test it. But I think I just wanted to sort of reiterate, like, we're pleased to have them on as a partner. They're going to be presenting our feature interview for the next little while. And in this case, Antoine Bibeau this week. But I want people to know that, like, when we bring on a partner, it's not just, hey, look, we can have an advertising partnership. That's not how we operate. We actually weren't even considering engaging in anything until we had a chance to try the product. Because it's easy to be skeptical when you hear about things like virtual reality. Come on, can it really feel like I'm playing goal? But they sent
You don't sound skeptical at all.
No, exactly. I mean, me skeptical, me negative. Come on.
I'm the skeptic. Truth is.
But they blew us away with the product. And I reached out to Bill Ranford, had a long conversation about how he's using it. He's part of their team now, but he's also using it with the LA Kings in multiple sets. Reached out to Bibeau by text before we had the interview. Reached out to some other guys that are using it by text and got honest opinions on this thing. And once we realized how legit it was, and once Hutch got it on, once his son Matthew got it on, we felt comfortable and we're excited that they're going to be a partner with us here on the podcast as a presenting sponsor of the feature interview. And I think excited enough, Hutch, that we felt like we really needed to bring Bob on to sort of walk us through how this came to be. Because, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think, like, how do you go from, yeah, we got virtual reality to I am going to play goal without stepping on the ice? And they really have achieved that.
Amazing. SenseArena.com is the website. It's a VR simulator, virtual reality, and if just in case you want to check it out as you listen to the podcast and Google it and walk along with us. But Hutch, explain to us exactly what we're talking about.
Oh, gosh. So you take something that goes well beyond anything we can see on a computer screen or on a TV, and now we have to sort of reduce it to a podcast to explain it. It's almost impossible. It's virtual reality goaltending. I am the skeptic in the crowd for sure. We've had lots of companies reach out with products, and you don't hear about them on here because, they sort of don't get that in goal approved. We're not ready to share with our listeners and our readers something that we really don't believe in. And so honestly, I expected to be very underwhelmed by the product, and I was blown away by how good it was. And yeah, you step onto the ice and you feel like you're a goaltender standing on the ice, and it's almost disorienting. I mean, you look down and there's the crease. And I had my son hand me the two controllers. You can either use it with or without gloves. And I'd already had the headset on, and I felt like I was there. And as he handed me the controllers, I reached to grab them, but it's not my hands that I'm reaching for. It's gloves I'm reaching for. And I literally tried to put my hand into the gloves. It just felt that real as he was handing me these two gloves. And then you start making a few saves and the puck is coming at you as you would expect it to. It's releasing from a stick as you would expect it to on the ice. It's more challenging than you expect it to be. I really believe that making saves with this pulls out some things that you can't get on the ice, in the sense that, you stop a shot, you think, well, like, I watched the puck, I stopped the shot, I achieved what I need to. And then this thing gives you feedback saying, well, your puck tracking is only at 88% right now. And really, so you try it a couple more times and you dial it in and it gets a little better and a little better. But this is, a level of detail beyond kind of just look at the puck, that makes you feel on the ice that you're doing the right thing. I mean, it really can drill down deep and see what you're doing. So there's some analytics in there about how you're working. There's some real difficulty on the ice. I mean, yes, there's some sort of simulated computer people that are shooting on you, but then they also have a mode where there's video of real professional players, and you feel like those guys are right there in front of you shooting on you. A little bit of deception, drag shots, this sort of stuff. I mean, it is an incredible level of detail, and I felt like I was right there. And as I say in conversation, perhaps even on this one, my son, who's a bantam goaltender, had tried it quite a bit, and one day in practice just came up to me. We had not prepped for this at all. He just said, "Oh my gosh, my puck tracking today is unbelievable. It's got to be that."
Wow.
And so he's feeling a transition from what's happening in this virtual reality world to what he's doing on the ice. That opportunity to train with something away from the rink that's not just juggling or some other sort of drill to work your hand-eye, but a chance to really, really play a little bit of goal in the comfort of your own home is incredible. I wish we had it from the beginning of the pandemic, but I'm glad we're going to be able to work with it going forward.
Most excited I've been about our new product in a long time. You know who would have loved this? Greg Millen, back in the 80s, because no bruises. He would have loved this thing. And Greg might have never practiced ever again. But it's a VR simulator. Will give you a real inside look into it, and we're really happy to be welcoming in Sense Arena as our sponsor for our feature interview, presenting sponsor for our feature interview. Here's Bob Tativa in a great interview and conversation with David Hutchison. And even though it doesn't sound like it, Woody's in here too. And Bob immediately gained our full support, and we are big fans of his based on a couple of just little shots back and forth with Woody. Here is Bob Tativa from Sense Arena, a new partner with In Goal Magazine, In Goal Radio, the podcast.
Here we are today, online with Bob Tativa from Sense Arena. If we hadn't introduced you to begin this, Bob, we could probably do a whole interview and tell our listeners that we were interviewing Dominik Hasek today, and we could get away with it. Because you're based in the Czech Republic right now, and love your accent, Bob. But we're here to talk about Sense Arena, and could you maybe just first off just give us an overview? We've had the pleasure of working with it, but give us an overview of where the concept came from and where it's at today.
Well, it's my pleasure being on this famous podcast. So first of all, thank you guys for bringing me in.
Thank you for calling it famous.
Yeah, it's always my pleasure seeing both of you, your smiley faces. And then if Kevin allow me to step in and talk a little bit, then I'll be absolutely pleased.
Well played, Bob.
Okay, well, all right. So Sense Arena.
Just for our listeners, Kevin has spit his coffee all over his desk right now. He enjoyed that so much. Okay. Anyway, Bob, over to you.
Well, now after this beginning, let me catch my thoughts. So Sense Arena, we are a virtual reality training platform that when I started with this, which is some 3.5 years ago, the initial idea, which is still there, and we are step by step fulfilling the vision, is that I strongly believe that the next step in the athletic training is not actually doing more squats and push-ups, but work on your brain. So brain training is what we call Sensarina, and it translates into, if for goalies, obviously it's about your ability to read the release, be clever facing screens, work on your box control, on your skills that are not that physical, meaning skating or some kind of endurance and stuff like that. For players, because we have a version for players as well, it's very easy to explain, because it's about reading the game and then reacting, making those fast, rapid decisions, and this is what we do. So we use virtual reality because we put you on the ice in a big arena. In the players version, you hold your hockey stick, so you feel like really playing hockey, and what you see around you is are the boards, is the environment. There are other players, your buddies or the Ds that do the drills with you. In the goalie version, it's obviously you in the crease, and then we have two environments. One is again kind of like computerized players that do some specific drills, obviously shoot, pass, and block and do that stuff. And then we have another environment where we were shooting real players. So we have videos of real players specifically releasing the shots, and then out of the video, we actually mask the puck, and we replace it with the virtual puck that comes to you, and you do the save. So you read the release, and then obviously you have to make the save. So this is what we do. And I guess for the big thing, that's enough, though.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I have to say, as somebody who's never tried virtual reality before, it was almost unsettling. I put the headset on, and my son handed me the two controllers, but I already had the headset on, and I felt myself reaching for them. But then, of course, there's two gloves in front of me, not two controllers, because I'm experiencing what they're representing. And I tried to slip my hands into the gloves. It was quite unlike anything I expected. And then when I started to use it, I found myself making moves that I would attempt to make on the ice, is all I can claim. Going down into the reverse VH and kicking out with my feet in my old school toe up way. Very, very much more realistic than I think I expected it to be. So it really feels like this is a technology that's starting to come of age. I don't think we could have done this 5 years ago, could we? Like, where are we today, and where are we going?
Well, it's this is what I love, because when we started, the whole virtual reality technology was still at the beginning of it started 1960, but with some kind of fancy trials. But really, some 3-4 years ago, the technology sort of matured in something that was usable by the public. But in fact, we are developing our software and hardware, and the big companies such as Facebook and HTC and Sony, they work on the underlying core technology of the helmets, the tracking and stuff like that, and we principally run in parallel. So the more they advance with their core technology, we then use it onto our platform, where we try to develop the athletic part of that, so that it's not a game. It's not a video game for somebody to have fun, but we replicate the physics, and we do as much to have a real immersive experience, so that you can really use it for training, not just for fun. But obviously, it's fun just like on the ice.
It's a whole lot of fun.
I'm curious, your background, Bob, in terms of whether there was any goaltending in it, whether you're a hockey guy, what brought you to this sport, what made goaltending fit this model so well, and some of the other guys you've worked with that have sort of, if there's been any gaps that they've helped bridge. I know, talked to Brian DeCord, and he just raved about the work you've done there. Billy Ranford as well, and a couple of the goalies, the pro goalies that you've had use it. And to bring it home and have a connection here, I think is Marek Schwartz, one-time Vancouver Giant, right here in my backyard. Is he one of the goalies that does a lot of the testing for you?
Well, this is always a funny that I'm not a hockey guy. So I used to play basketball professionally a couple of years here in Europe. And my family, I grew up in a family where my dad was at 2 Olympics back in the 60s playing basketball. I was following hockey as my second sport, as a hobby player, and as the holder of a season ticket to one of the local teams here. But obviously, two sports could not go together. But then my son, when he started his, at the age of 6, he started to skate. And so on. So I got more involved in the local hockey, and because of my technology background, so I was always, developing new products for in a telecommunication environment and in banking, which was about really advanced technologies for mobile banking back in the 1998, 2000, really at the beginning of all of that. So by my soul, I'm kind of like a developer, and the two things, like my passion for sport and my technology roots, absolutely clicked together here. So that because I love sport and because I love technology, when I see there is an opportunity to merge those things together, and it was really at the 3.5 years ago. And I always say this story that my biggest fear at the beginning was that I'm going to be, second, third, or fifth to the market with something like this. So when I first landed in the US, doing a demo for the USA Hockey guys, I was always checking, have you seen anything like this? Do you know that there's some other party producing or working on a product like that, and they almost like they went like, what are you asking? We have never seen anything like this. So the momentum changed into not having a fear that I'm second, third, or fifth to the market, to a fear that I'm actually 2 years ahead of the others, and we were wherever we landed. People came being curious, what's gonna be this is something that cannot work, and then they were absolutely shocked, like, wow, that unbelievable, really, you can do this. And they experienced, because to put the helmet on is very, very different from seeing videos on YouTube. So really, really different experience. So you have to put the helmet on, and then you see suddenly a new world of opportunities that this brings. So we were like missioners running around, spreading the vision, showing the product. And obviously at the beginning it wasn't perfect. So we did number of mistakes, and perhaps sometimes we were too early to, like I remember 3 years ago, we visited the Red Wings, thanks to an invitation from a friend of us, Yuri Fisher, and that the product wasn't that good at that time. So we kind of did a wrong or passed the wrong message that this is something that is more for kids playing and enjoying, instead of being a serious training tool. So but you make mistakes as you go, and you have to learn from them. So we did, and here we go. We have now, as you said, Mark Schwartz is one of our advisors for the goalie product. We have Brian Dacord, the special assistant to the GM at the Coyotes nowadays. Bill Ranford, goalie coach for the Kings, helping us, and we have more than a dozen professional NHL star goalies really using the goalie product now, only 3 months after we launched that. So finally we have found the right product, as well as the technology matured, and everything clicked together.
Today, it's it focuses mostly on the gloves. I think it's fair to say, and tracking the puck, of course, and reading the play and the releases. What's next? You seem to have a fairly quick development cycle. Tell us a little bit about that development cycle, and then what do you see coming in the next year?
There are two avenues. One is to improve the technology of the product. So we are heavily working on R&D, how to make the pets involved in the whole system, more than just your hands and your head. So that's real R&D on our side. And then the other thing is that I want to move more towards pro use of that. So we would like to involve like the real game situations. Like, let me give you an example. So if you're going to be facing a team 2 days from now, you can put the helmet on and you can play all sorts of scenarios of their power play or how they solve rushes and things like that, and kind of memorize for yourself what you're going to be facing in 2 days. So to move from just skills training to more pre-game rehearsal, warm up, and tactical or system learning.
So I was going to say, we've already heard some really good feedback. I had a conversation with Bill Ranford last week. I mean, the LA Kings have obviously invested in a couple sets, multiple sets for their goalies. Jacob Ingham has it with him in Germany and really likes the tracking and the hands, and the ability to sort of use it as a warm up and training tool in that regard. Hutch talked about the hands is one of the next pieces that you work on developing something. So as goalies, we always try and put our torso in front of the puck, because you can miss with the glove, you can't miss with the chest. The puck doesn't go through your chest. Like, is that one of the next things in terms of the development? Like you mentioned, you're always looking for new and continuing to develop. Is the ability to sort of make chest saves? Will that be part of the next phase?
Yeah, that's a good question, because we have the chest protector built in already from the beginning, so that you can effectively make saves by your chest protector. The only thing is that it's invisible, so you actually you don't see your body, but it's there. So when the puck goes in the center of the net, then it's blocked by your body. What we will be releasing is actually the visualization of your body, which we didn't want to do kind of unprofessional, because we are really cautious about not sliding into a game tool. So we want to do everything professional, just as having the stick tracking included, which is going to be in the next release in 2-3 weeks. We have already tested everything, so as soon as you have the controllers attached to your gloves, then you can switch on your stick tracking. You use your stick and you will see that stick in the environment. You can make saves, but obviously the most important is the weight, as well as the position of the hands that should reflect the reality. And the chest protector will be visualized as well. So finally, you will feel like that you are really covering majority of the net, just as normal.
I think one thing that's important for us to make clear here is because we're talking about the future. What's next is what's there is fantastic, and I think it's because it's so good that what's next. Like, can we have more? That ability to feel like you're in that immersive environment is incredible. And I think one of the things that stood out for me in our initial testing what was the tracking, the way that it encouraged you to focus on your tracking of a puck. I think we all sometimes think that we're tracking, and we catch a puck, we deflect a puck with our blocker. Oh, I guess we were successful. And then now we can get some analytics from your system. Sorry, your tracking actually wasn't very good, and it encourages, almost forces this new focus that wasn't there before. So, just absolutely love that part. Talk to us a little bit about the analytics and what the measures are that the system is giving you after a series of saves.
So this is the beauty of the technology, that you can imagine the VR room being as a digital cage. So everything what you do can be measured. As long as it is physical, and there is some mathematical formula to calculate that, you can measure. The other beauty is that if you were to do some kind of measurement on the ice in the real environment, the measures would be always spoiled by the fact that this is, you use this shooter on Monday and the other shooter on Tuesday, and perhaps the light and the ice is not equal and things like that. Here in the VR, you have real apple to apple comparison when you do, like, our tool has a diagnostic module, and when you put the goalie in the diagnostic module, the drills and the intelligence of the artificial players there is the same if you do this in Toronto, in Boston, in Vancouver, in Prague, or in Helsinki. So you have really apple to apple comparison of the goalies. The only thing that differs or is different is their performance. And what we measure, it's many different touch points, but it's you mentioned puck tracking. The other things are how you square like the angles during the play, obviously, of your save percentage, your reaction time, how you track the play so that you predict what's going to be happening, and things like that. And obviously, every goalie has a profile at Sensorina. So when you log in, all the data are then allocated, attributed to you. So it's not mixed up with somebody who comes after you and trains. So then you can do benchmarks with the other goalies. We have ranking of the goalies. We obviously know, or you declare, I'm U16, I'm pro goalie. The difficulty level, the speeds, then will adopt to the level of your practice, as well as we distinguish, the size of the goalie and stuff like that, so that the chest protector, the gloves, everything then fits to your personal needs.
What's the feedback like from your top sort of pro testers in terms of the comparison to the VR system, and then what's happening when they're stepping on the ice?
Well, it's I don't want to speak too much glory about us, but the thing that I love is at the end of the day, like the goalies here in Czech, they use it pre-practice, so they do instead of like working with the balls and stuff like that, they put Sensorina on before they go to practice. Obviously, the quality of the screens is not real life, so it's a little bit harder to read the releases and all of that. So what they keep telling me, like, that they really love having a hard time during the warm-up pre-practice in Sensorina, because when they then go on ice and face the real shots of the real players, suddenly it's kind of like slow-mo for them, and they have 100% clarity of everything. So they intentionally put themselves in a harder conditions at the beginning, just to warm up the brain, warm up all their the sight and all their senses, and then they feel much better when they get on ice. So this is one of the examples what I'm getting as a feedback and this is actually from pro goalies here.
Yeah, and we found similar sort of things in our initial work with it, not intentionally saying you're going to step on the ice. Now tell me how that compared to. It was really just anecdotally coming over to me in the middle of the practice and saying, like, I can't believe how well I'm tracking today. It's got to be that training we were doing. So, yeah, great stuff, Kevin.
Same feedback we're getting, like you said, from some of the pro clients too, Bob. Talking to quick exchange some text with Antoine Bibeau, who we're going to have on the show this episode, but I'm going to talk to him after we talk to you. But, that's the same thing he said, and hearing from Billy, same thing with his goalies. They just feel like after they use it, they get on the ice and all their tracking is just amplified and they're locked in. So it sounds like that's a pretty universal experience.
Exactly.
And I mean, we're talking about some specific uses here. It would seem to me that some specific training programs would be a nice fit with this. So instead of I just want to do warm up drill number 1, you might actually have something dictated to you by the system as what's right for you.
This is just coming now in the next release, as I said, 2-3 weeks from now. I don't know when you're going to be on air with this episode, but latest in the middle of November, we will be releasing an update, which is automatically available to everybody who is already with us and for the new customers, of course. And that will have the first 3 training plans inside. And it's just the start of, say, a platform of training plans that we want to evolve. All the sessions are designed by credible coaches. The first one is from Bill Ranford, from Mark Schwartz, and from one more former pro goalie here in Czech, who is now a goalie coach at the BK Mladá Boleslav. And we have already a training plan done by Maria Mounting, who you know for sure. Brian Dacourt promised me yesterday that he will really devote some time in his busy schedule to do one for us as well. And it's going to go like this. And I actually, this is another vision that I have, that I want to move this even further, having a platform that will connect goalies and coaches in real time. So it's all digital. So you can imagine that you as a goalie coach can sit home and actually see on your laptop your buddy, your guy practicing in the VR. You will see what he sees, as well as you will see how he physically acts, and you can talk to him. So it's kind of a way to have a virtual training, not physically side by side, but over the air at the same time, bringing the expertise of goalies that are, it can be in the Czech Republic, can be in Canada, in the US, to goalies that are perhaps in not that hockey developed countries, or in places that are somewhere in the middle of nowhere, but still you can have an access to absolutely top class coaching.
I could see that giving a real opportunity to also give feedback to coaches, just from athletes. Maybe not a session together, because that's not always easy, but just, here, Johnny, here's the work we need you to do this week. And then I assume the coach would then get an email and here's what he's done and here's how it's gone.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing we haven't talked about is maybe just tell us a little bit about the, as we step out of the hockey arena, there's also some neurovisual training. I'm getting the wrong word there, but a number of sort of non-hockey training programs built into the system.
Yeah, cognitive drills, or that you can work on your cognitive skills. which are universal to any sport, and that's something that's hardwired then in your brain. So we have a set of drills in both of the platforms for players as well as goalies that have been developed together with professors from the Charles University here in Prague. And those are things, besides the obvious, such as your reaction speed. There are things like proprioception, things like peripheral vision, your decision making, reacting to different stimuli, and stuff like that. It's a little bit harder to actually explain this to hockey dads and hockey moms and the ordinary people, because they don't see the immediate value in translation of the if I do this for a week, will I score twice as many goals, or how it's going to translate? So it's you have to keep working on these. Like, you should not expect that if you do 100 push-ups a week, you're going to be much better in a month time. It takes time, and this is exactly the same if you train the brain. It takes time. You need consistency. Sometimes it's fun because it's part of the game when you have to make decisions, and sometimes it's just working on your cognitive skills, and which it's not that much fun, but you will benefit out of that big time.
I can tell you they're fun because there's a competitive element to them. As soon as you get that ranking where I fit, there might be somebody in the house who kept trying until he could get to the top of one of the leaderboards, and that's all that mattered to him. So it's we're faking them into training, I think.
Absolutely.
Well, Bob, that's I think that's a fantastic introduction for everybody, and at a time when so many young goaltenders need some other options for training away from the rink. I mean, we know there's a large set of goaltenders that are just looking to do more and become better. But we also, unfortunately, have a large group that aren't even able to get on the ice right now. And it is, I can tell you from my personal use, a very powerful tool to be able to use to improve your goaltending. And thank you for the work you're doing, for sharing it with us a little bit today. And we look forward to seeing what's coming in the future releases. I just love that it's always something new coming down the pipe.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Kevin, bringing me in. And I can promise that we keep working every day to make the product better and better. So what you see on the market from us right now will be something that you will laugh about in a year horizon. So it's been always like that. If I look back 2 years ago, how our product looked at that time, and I was proud of that at that time. But if I compare it now, I always scratch my head and say, "Oh my God, where I got the guts to actually show this to customers," because it was not really good. But this is how it works. So my promise that we keep working.
Well, thanks, Bob. The work you've done already is incredible. Virtual reality training for goaltenders. It is here today, and it is doing some incredible stuff already. And we're looking forward to continuing to work with it. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
We've been going back and forth after this conversation was recorded and discussing the benefits of using VR and the simulator. And just with people that are injured, and I know Antoine Bibeau is coming up, our feature interview this week, but if you've got a groin injury or you're battling something, you can still, with this product, keep up to date and keep your reflexes and your senses sharp, Hutch.
Yeah, absolutely. I think back to some studies I've seen where visualization training is used, and people find an improvement even without actually going out there and shooting hoops. Weight training was one that blew me away. How just simple visualization can maintain muscle mass during an injury recovery. Now I think that you're actually doing it. You're not just imagining it, but you're experiencing that whole that whole thing with this VR, I think the ability to keep your skills sharp is unbelievable. You know, the other piece that didn't come up there for me was this indoor sort of plastic ice that you can have in your home if you can set up a rink at home for a couple $1,000. I've never really been sold on that as an investment, or much less being able to have the space, because you can't do a lot more than crease movement drills, save for setting up a really expensive place where guys can shoot on you. And it's not the same crease movement experience, as good as it is. But I can imagine combining the two now and sort of actually going through the movements on your indoor ice, but receiving sort of virtual shots. I'm excited about maybe trying that one day. But yeah, I think it's got a whole lot of applications. It's and a whole lot of room to grow all at the same time. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and that on ice we've seen that. We've seen goalies in Europe try that through some of the videos from Sense Arena. Right now, I would say that in talking to Bill Ranford, like, this is definitely a development tool for goaltenders. They really, as you heard Bob talk about, this isn't a video game. That's not what they're after. It's a development tool for goaltenders. He felt like the best applications right now were for tracking in the hands, and that transition of making saves on the ice, is something that he hasn't used it for yet, but we are seeing others use it. And he was talking about the same thing. You can set up that environment. It's definitely something that's possible, because right now, especially if you are able to skate and move on that synthetic ice like you would in a game, because right now, say for example, a long pass, you're moving your body with your feet in a way you wouldn't on the ice. You're not necessarily T-pushing or shuffling. You're moving like you would almost as a ball hockey goaltender. So that's, for example, something where Billy wouldn't want his guys using like a pass from point down to the far dot. But for sure, passes, say low to high, simple passes into shots, like those movements, he actually feels translates really well in the hands and the way you're able to keep them active and make saves. Now, when you've got an NHL goalie coach using this actively with his goalies in his organization, that's a pretty good sign that this is a lot more than just a video game.
sensearena.com. And there's another aspect to this that I absolutely love. One is the consistency, which Bob alluded to. Day after day, you're getting the same type of test in Stockholm as you would in Brandon, as you would in Hawaii, that kind of thing. So you can really, as a coach, from distance, train and engage things. And the other part of it that you really dive deep in is just the ability to keep your mind sharp at a whim. If you've got 10 minutes, do it. If you've got 20 minutes, do it. If you're between lunch and supper, you go and do it.
And I'd say, to add to that, the opportunity for a little bit of what I would call sort of overclocking or overspeed training. How great is it when a young goaltender goes to a camp or gets an opportunity to AP and they're playing against guys, 2, 3, 4, 5 years older than them. And then they come back to their own practice and now everything seems to have slowed down. And now you've got the opportunity to do that. You can, as Bob mentions in the interview, you've got that opportunity to face pro level shots on the VR simulator. And then now your eyes are all warmed up. You can head out for practice and everything slows down.
I'm excited about the future. Like the scouting, when Bob talked about scouting an opponent, that you're going to play the next, I imagine in college or where you were playing the same opponent in back-to-back games in a weekend set. Wow. Like what you could do, what you could implement there. We're really excited, and the stamp of approval for Sense Arena, sensearena.com, this virtual reality simulator. Bob Tativa, we welcome them on board and looking forward to this partnership that goes along with the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, and Source for Sports Surrey. The gear segment dealing with upper body protection, the chest protector from the Bauer UltraSonic line. Woody.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna let Cam take it away here because this is something that is quite unique. They've rebuilt the arms. I think we've started to associate Bauer with innovation with the work they've done with the pads. We've talked about the ultrasonic pads and the StabiliSlide knee that's locked in, the Odin series with Henrik Lundqvist and the active rebounds. I would consider this ultrasonic chest protector, another one of those evolution/revolutions for Bauer in terms of trying to go outside the box in the way they design the arms, some of the added features and tabs and adjustment things that they've put on this chest protector that I hadn't seen anywhere else at any other point. We love innovation at InGoal, and I'm going to let Cam take it away and explain all the innovation behind this new Bauer UltraSonic chest protector.
It's our gear segment brought to you by Source for Sports Surrey, the hockey shop, thehockeyshop.com.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports, or as we like to call it, Goalie Utopia, because you have to die to go to heaven and you don't have to die to come here. And as you can see, surrounded by all this goalie goodness, as well as Cam Matwiv, you've heard the voice on the InGoal Radio podcast. We are simulcasting today, so you're going to hear the voice on the InGoal Radio podcast, but you're also going to get to see the video. We've been promising that for a couple of weeks. We were playing around behind the scenes with all the camera angles. I think we've got it figured out. We're going to make Cam actually wear the gear now as he talks about it. So Cam, today, UltraSonic, new chest and arms, some unique new features in terms of the arms. Walk me through this chest protector, what's new, what's different, what works, and what the feedback has been from customers.
Yeah, so obviously all new for 2020, Bauer's UltraSonic unit, which I'm currently wearing. One of the things to call out right away, because it's probably a focal point for the chest, will be the arms themselves in particular. Bauer's gone away from what we consider a traditional arm and kind of pushed the envelope forward a little bit more.
There's no distinct elbow
floater cap. Oh yeah, whatever way you want to kind of word it, it's now more of like a sleeve, if anything. A design that's, you can see elements of other chests that are on the wall, in particular, probably calling out the Warrior in particular, just for some of the similarities, but the arms are quite a bit different.
Well, it compares to the Warrior in my mind in that they've gone a completely different direction from a traditional elbow floater.
Correct. Yeah, you see it more of like a hinge design. So when you get in closer, tight to the chest a little bit more, you can see how the entire actual, what we'll call the bicep plate, shifts up when you flex the arm. What this does is create the chest great mobility right out of the box, especially while wearing it currently right now. Like I have freedom to move around. I don't feel like I'm being hindered with a lot of the chest that kind of bulk up, especially in the arms. It's very easy, mobile right out of the box.
So if I were to go over here, and we'll just, because you didn't bring your own coffee.
Borrow yours for the day?
Yeah, so if I hand you a cup of coffee, yeah, there's probably some in there, careful. No problem. Just the grinds.
Just the grinds
for you. But no problem. This is something that we can sit casually and have a conversation in. You're going to get a little hotter than I am sitting here, but
yes, wearing a sweater was a poor mistake on my part, but that said, I feel easy, I feel move, I feel relaxed, it's comfortable. And if there were pucks, I feel protected. One of the biggest things that they have done, they've included still their Curve X composite inside the arms. So they're still providing that great protection.
Curve X composite, slow down, say it again.
Curve composite. Curve X is EX, that is not quite the proper pronunciation.
Okay, so they put the curve composite
correct
in the arm pieces, so you maintain the mobility, and you're adding with the curve composite what, a layer of protection, impact absorption?
Impact absorption, and also that protection while maintaining a light weight for the chest itself.
Okay, one thing we saw when the Warrior was introduced was fitting the arms became very important because of the mechanical arms. Is it similar here? Like when you're fitting people in this, is it any different than you would fit another chest protector? Are the arms a priority over, say, the chest piece itself?
A little bit, but the nice thing that Bauer's done, they've added that ease, especially in terms of for fitting in store. So what Bauer's done is that they've actually added a drawstring attachment on the upper shoulder piece in particular.
So you can adjust the length.
This is about 2 inches of leeway to bring it up or down, for example. Easy adjustment. You're just pulling the drawstring, set it, and forget it, basically.
Okay. The focal point is the arms, just because they're so different. What are some of the other elements of this chest protector that, say, somebody who is coming from the 2S Pro model might notice similarities and differences?
Yeah, we don't want to gloss over, and miss some of the other key features that this chest has added. It's still taking that same supreme body shape.
The shape is there,
yes. Yeah, which is familiar, and which is going to be great for those guys coming out of some of those older supreme chests. But again, they've added a lot of improved features for it. Starting from the bottom and working our way up, in particular, suspender clips. So these bungee straps right here can clip right into your pants.
So those it's a couple of bungee clips that are fixed just below the bottom of the shoulder floater wing, and that will actually attach right into your pants.
So yeah, you can ditch the suspenders completely and just actually put these right into the suspender clips on your pants already, and you're good. You're set. Actually, and multiple adjustment pieces for where you actually want to lace in your chest too.
Yeah, it looks like there's in terms of the tie down, there's 4 different places you can put it. Now, like that upper one, there's an upper one just below the chest plate. Is anybody wearing their pants that high? Like, I mean, you're kind of like, I'm thinking somebody maybe in their 80s or 90s still playing goal. You know, we tend to like to hike our pants up as you get old, like me.
Yeah, if you want to have them up by your, armpits, but that's your call.
Probably your style, I would think. Yeah. What are some of the other features? Adjustability, I noticed on the back as well.
Yeah, exactly. Same adjustability, but actually continuing moving up, the heart plate in particular, or chest plate, we'll call it, the integration of their pour-on foam, their impact-absorbing foam, which we have called out in a couple of their other pieces of equipment, most recently the mask. Great for especially those body shots, helping to absorb and not having that impact transfer all the way through into your body. Solid shoulder floaters themselves. This features their shock light / curve material. Again, form of composite to allow that rigidity and also level of protection. As you called out on the back, we've got 3 adjustments in terms of for how the back clips up. In particular, ease of getting your tight fit. I have the chest fairly snugged up right now, but it doesn't feel like it's choking me off anywhere or anything like that.
As we said before we started filming, as I helped him clip it up, it might be time to mix in a salad for Cam, but I digress.
That said, one last feature that I really like, and it's become a bit of a theme on the wall, suspenders. You can actually, again, so saying you don't use the bungees at the top, but you're still looking for a place to pop your suspenders. On the shoulder floaters themselves, there's 2 adjustment areas where they're held on by Velcro. Basically, you can hold your suspenders down, attached to the shoulder floaters in particular. If you have a quick look, you can see it there. They unzip, put your suspenders on, pop it back on, centers the suspenders on top of those shoulder floaters to help keep the chest down and square for you.
A couple of bungee clips up over the shoulder floaters. Is that similarly designed for, like, what's the thought process there? Besides being really good for holding a microphone.
Yes, it also works great for this current application. But that said, depending on how your look and presentation you're looking for in the net, some guys really like their chest pulled down a bit more so they can still have that ease of mobility, turning their head. That will help to aid in that. Personally speaking, I like to put my chest closer, or my suspenders closer to the neck line. That way I don't lose any of that added coverage. But again, this is one of those personal preference areas. And some guys do like those shoulder floaters pulled down a little bit more, and that gives you that option.
On the back, you've got a couple different Velcro adjustments in terms of, again, the shoulder floaters and how you want them to fit in terms of width, how you want them to be pulled up or
and
let
body
hang
height in
loose.
particular. Yep.
So a lot of adjustability in this unit. It's a chance, I would imagine, for if you've got a young goaltender who's still growing, probably some opportunities there, especially with the arm length adjustments, to have this unit grow with them a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Something that's definitely not as often found in pro units. They usually fit how they fit right out of the box, but this does offer that level of adjustment to, ideally grow into it a little bit more.
Okay, what's been the feedback so far? You're ahead of the curve on us on this one. We haven't actually had a chance, pandemic and all, to get it out on the ice ourselves here at InGoal. So we're leaning heavily on you. What you've heard back from your customers? What do people like?
Yeah, initial feedback's been good. Again, the mobility right out of the box has been cited. The ease of movement in the arms in particular. The body unit itself being comfortable yet protective. All quick common feedbacks that we've gotten. Beyond that, again, it's still kind of early on for like the whole review in particular. But that said, so far it's been very positive.
Okay, perfect. Cam, thank you very much for joining us for this segment of the InGoal Radio Podcast Gear segment. Where can people get you if they got questions about fit, they got questions about sizing, they got questions about what pants these are going to work best with? Where can they get a hold of you if they've got more questions?
You can reach me on the phone at 604-589-8299.
Make sure you check them out online as well. The Hockey Shop, hockeyshop.com, Hockey Shop source for sports here in Surrey, BC. I've got a few pucks here. For those of you that are sticking around for the video segment, we might have a little test on just how fast Cam moves and how well these things absorb. We also might test my arm.
We've all played with upper body gear that just, because you're trying to protect yourself as much as you can, there's that choice between bulking up and making it stiff and cumbersome, where you bend your arm and things kind of get in the way, or you sacrifice that protection for flexibility and mobility, and you're going to take some stingers. So that really seems to cover off all the boxes. Imagine that back in the day, Hutch, when you were putting on an arm piece and a chest piece separately.
Oh my gosh, to have any of today's protection back in the day. I mean, my kid started playing at 5 and better stuff than I were in university. It's unbelievable. I was thinking about that when we were talking Sensorina too, because I mean, it's at this point, it's basically the two hands you're working with. And man, that would have been great back in the 70s, because you need to catch everything with your hands or block everything with your hands, because heaven forbid it hit you in the upper body. If only I could have had that new Bauer UltraSonic chesty when I was playing.
Virtual reality back in the 70s, when you had to get up and manually turn the channel on your TV. Just doesn't seem to go hand in hand or arm in arm. But yeah, what great advances in technology. Great job, Woody. Source for Sports, Surrey, The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, with In Goal Radio, the podcast. And now time for our feature interview. This is Antoine Bibeau, who has just signed a contract with the Carolina Hurricanes. Battled injury, didn't play a lot last year. He's a part of the group that is working with Sensorina as well. There's a whole lot in this conversation. And this is a player that was the most outstanding goaltender at a Memorial Cup, was a draft choice of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then signed on with the San Jose Sharks. There's a lot packed into this young man's life in the world of hockey, goaltending, and the professional ranks, and including the recovery from injury and how he went about that. Plus, for all those gearheads out there, this is a kind of a refreshing take on it. There's Antoine Bibeau, the feature interview of In Goal Radio, the podcast, presented by Sensorina, sensorina.com.
All right, really pleased to welcome to the show Antoine Bibeau. Antoine, I really appreciate you doing this. We had never had a chance to meet. We got to talk briefly after a game this year. You were playing for Colorado in Vancouver, a wild back and forth affair. You came out with the W. Just signed with the Carolina Hurricanes this past weekend. What's this been like going through this pause? And what was it like being in the bubble and then coming out and into free agency? Like what's this been like as a professional athlete to go through all this?
It's been pretty crazy, I think, since COVID first started. When it first started, I remember the guys thinking that it might just be for a month, then maybe for 2 months, and the next thing you know, they cancel the season. And even right now, to this point, we still don't know when the next season is going to start. There's still so much uncertainty about the whole thing. So it's been really different, even just as far as getting ready for next season, working out on the ice. The guys are still debating. So we've been working out for a while now, and the guys are debating, should we go all out right now? Should we take a little break? Like, there's a lot of things going through our mind. But at the end of the day, we're just trying to control what we can control and get ready for next season as best as we can.
And obviously that probably played a role in, we were talking about earlier about free agency, and it, in the past, there was always that rush for teams to build out their depth chart right away. And it took a while. And as I was saying, you've got a contract with the Carolina Hurricanes right now. There are a lot of your peers that still don't have a deal in place. And it seems to be a lot of wait and see. What was that process like this year compared to past years for you?
It was my second time going through a little bit of free agency. Obviously, it was a whole different experience with COVID in play, and also the fact that I was injured for most of the year last year. I would say the vibe was really slow this year. Everything was slower. I think teams took their more time in the sense that there's COVID going on. There's also, we don't really know when next season's going to start. So there's a few things going on that made the whole process a bit slower. On my end, I'm really grateful and excited that I signed with Carolina. I think I'm really excited about the opportunity and just really getting back out there. Like I said, I missed a few months last year. And then right now we're all in the same boat, missing a lot of times with COVID, but we're skating a lot and just doing everything we can to make sure whenever it starts, we're all ready to go.
What's for young goaltenders out there? Because there are a lot. Some guys, some kids are able to play right now. Some aren't. Some are kind of stuck in the same position. They're in a holding pattern. Maybe they can practice a whole bunch, but they're missing the games. Any advice for them? Like, what is your focus when you do get on the ice and get some drills in? As much as you've missed game action, how do you try and maintain that edge? Are there any drills you like or things you like to do that you think might translate, even down to lower levels and for kids that they might want to focus on if they're going through the same thing?
I mean, this is a good time for everyone to work on stuff that you need to work on that you're not necessarily good at. Personally, I've been trying to work on my skating. I think so. We're skating here maybe 3 times a week. So what we do is one practice will be battle drill practice, like high tempo kind of drill. One practice will be solely on skill for players, and for me, it's going to be on goalie drill stuff I want to work on. And then the third one is going to be game situation, just so we can get a little bit of a rhythm and have a game situation. Other than that, we talked about it before the interview started. I've been using the Sensor Arena, so I've been working on my tracking, box control with that at home. So that's a great tool on a day off or on a day that I don't have a practice. I can use it just before working out and working on my game on a daily basis, really, without putting any wear and tear on my body.
I was going to ask you about that later, but you brought it up. Were you surprised? You've had it for a couple months. Like, I think we were, when we first had a chance to try it on, didn't know what to expect. Surprised at all by how realistic it felt? Does it feel like you're playing goal when you've got it on?
It's amazing. I mean, you put it on and you appeared in that basically in an NHL arena, and you looked around, and it's really like being in an NHL arena. It's really cool. And then the just the tracking, everything. It's crazy how realistic it is. I really enjoy it. And there's also there's a part where I can do just some shots. It's kind of pylons, just shooting the puck. There's also a part where it's an actual player, so you can read the release, and that's crazy how realistic it is. And then if you there's also some reaction drills that you can do that are really good for reaction, not necessarily for tracking or anything like that, but for reaction, working on your reaction time. It's an awesome tool, I think, for goalies. It's great. And like I said, obviously we're skating and I'm going on the ice a few times a week and getting some shots. But this is great because I can use it on a daily basis without putting my body through wear and tear of practice. Really just, it's good warm up before practice to get your eyes going. So yeah, I didn't really know what to expect. And no, I'm pleased with how it turned out.
Yeah, no, it's pretty remarkable. I'm guessing as young Antoine Bibeau growing up now, I was going to ask you who you grew up, like who was your guy? How'd you get started in goal? Share how this passion began for you. What first drew you to the position, and who was your guy that you looked up to growing up?
Well, growing up, I'm from Quebec, so obviously Patrick Roy was the guy winning Stanley Cup with Colorado, so that played a big part. My mom's cousin played for the Quebec Nordiques a little bit, Mario Gosselin. So in the family, like I don't know him well, but just the fact that he played in the NHL for the Quebec Nordiques, but I would say, yeah, growing up, it would have been Patrick Roy for sure. Played a big part.
Okay, so what's that? So I mean, and you end up in Colorado and playing for the same franchise. Does that have any extra meaning? Did those two things connect for you at all? Obviously, you've been a professional athlete now for a number of years, but to be in the same arena, in the same locker room, wearing the same uniform in an NHL game as the guy that you looked up to and was your boyhood idol, do you think about it?
It was pretty special. It was, and I remember actually talking to, I think it was Joe Sakic when I got traded, and we talked on the phone, and I told him about the connection, and so my parents were a billet family in the queue, so we had the chance to billet Patrick's son, actually. So I met him. He came to our house when I was a kid, gave me a book, signed a book. So it was pretty cool. And then getting traded to that organization, and especially it's when I got the chance to put the jersey on in Edmonton and then in Vancouver. It was special for sure.
Now, Let's go through the background a little bit. What was it that drew you to the position that got you started? When did you start playing goal? When did you have your first goalie coach? When did it go from something that was just, hey, I like this, to, hey, this is something I'm really good at and I'd like to keep doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think thinking back, it was when we all play goalie in the team, so every kid go in net. And then I think I played the final game of the season, and we won the league that year, and I was the goalie in the final. And I think that feeling of just being in net, being the guy. So then I decided to try it again the year after, and then it just went from there. Yeah, I love the game, and then I remember going to some goalie camp in the summer. I think it was Stefan Waite who was the goalie coach there. It was in Sherbrooke. So that was my first goalie camp. Were in Sherbrooke with him in Quebec. So no, it's thinking back, I can't pinpoint on a moment that I decided to go. I think the only thing that comes back to me is that game that no one wanted to play goalie, and I'm gonna go, and it was the final game, and we won, and just that feeling of being the guy that was in net that game. I think that's what made it for me.
Do you think that's a feeling? Because I've had that answer before, Antoine, from all kinds of goalies about what it is that drew them, and that you're never off the ice. You know, everything's on your shoulders. You're always involved. Do you think that that's at the root of what it takes to be a goaltender? The ability to embrace both that pressure, but not to treat it as pressure, to feel like that's something you want, as opposed to thinking of it as a pressure situation.
It's obviously something. Yeah, it's something you got to embrace. You can't, like you said, it's pressure, but you can't see it that way. You gotta be happy to be the one having to face all that pressure, and being the one that, obviously, being a goalie, when you win, everything's great. You're the guy. When things don't go well, it's the same thing, but it's part of the journey, and it's something that feeling of winning a game, of being the guy in net, is just, it's something really special that I don't think, as a player, as a defenseman, you don't see. It's a whole different game. Goalie, like you said, you're by yourself a little bit. You're in your head as much that you want to be with the guys, because it's hard. Like, you score a goal, you're in your net, you can't celebrate with the guys as much as they do. They make a good play, they talk on the bench. You're in your head a little bit more. But no, it's a special job.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about your game and how it's evolved over the years, but maybe we could just go through some of the teams and some of the coaching influences that you've had, and you can, let me know. I'm guessing you've probably added pieces at each stop. Different coach has a different voice, and I know part of the job is managing that, not feeling like there's that pressure to sort of try things every coach wants you to do, but you have to find yourself within that. So maybe just starting with Toronto, you get drafted by the Maple Leafs. Talk about pressure. You got to embrace that to be a member of that organization. 3 years in with the Leafs and the Marlies, I'm trying to think of who the goalie coach would have been at the time. Was it Steve Briere by then, or?
Briere was there. Rick St. Croix actually, I think, was there the first year, if I can correct. Yeah, I think he was there. Briere was there afterwards. And then in the American League, all 3 years was Piero Greco, who's with New York Islanders now. So he's the guy that I worked the most with.
How did your game evolve with him over those 3 years? And don't forget, you're talking to a goalie-specific audience. So if there's little specific things that the normal media interview you wouldn't bother with, fill us in, because our goalies want to hear it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, his stuff was pretty simple but really efficient. So the big thing with him was just being square to the puck the whole time. So the guys sometimes hold the puck, whether if they're like a lefty or righty, you don't want to be facing the body, you want to be facing the puck. That was really simple stuff for me, but it's crazy how big of a difference it made when I was doing it right and when I was doing it wrong. So that really, I think all 3 years I was there, that's really the big thing I took from him, was just the positioning, working on your angles. I think that was really his things. I remember doing a drill every practice. We just put 2 gloves on top of the circle. Guys would come off and go one way or the other. So you got to adjust, and they take a shot. And yeah, it was really just to work on your angles, make sure you're square at all times. And when you are square, doesn't matter how small or big, or if your depth is good, there's not much holes. Like your movements are pretty small to make us up. You shouldn't have to reach on anything. So it made a big difference for me. And like I said, we worked on that daily, every single day. Obviously, we worked on other stuff, but the big thing was working on the angles, on being square to the puck. So it makes a big difference when you're dead square, and it makes everything easier.
Everything kind of feels like it's coming at you when you're there, eh? When you're in position,
Exactly,
it's sort of
yeah.
And then you talked about working on your skating during this pause. Like, I guess that's the biggest challenge as the game becomes so fast east-west. It's how do we stay square as the game moves around us and get to that square spot as fast as we can.
Yeah, exactly. The skating actually is something. So in San Jose, I was working with Evgeny Nabokov, and from him, obviously, like a same thing. He was great guy, unreal goalie coach. That doesn't force anything on you. So same kind of thing. He looked at my game, and we worked on stuff that would benefit me. But for him, it was battle your athleticism, just working on your feet. So I think skating was more of a thing there. We worked on a few skating drill. We'd start the practice with skating drills before every practice, and just like goalie is not, you're not always going to be square. Obviously, you're not always going to be in a perfect position. You're going to have to battle. You're going to have to find ways to make save. And I think that was the thing. We worked on everything from tracking to being square to simple movement, but working on your skating, making sure your feet are moving at all times. And like I said, you're not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to be pretty or square. But at the end of the day, you just got to get the jump done and make the saves.
And I was going to say that the first year with San Jose, I think you were a Pacific Division All-Star in the American Hockey League that year. But I wanted to rewind quickly before we get to San Jose and Nabby, because he's one of our favorites. But that first game in Toronto, to make your NHL debut with the Toronto Maple Leafs, I know you didn't win your first start, but you won your second game, got your first W against a team that just won the Stanley Cup, the Tampa Bay Lightning. What's that moment like? What do you remember of that day? I know I'm asking you to go back here, but like, do you still remember that day and remember what the emotions were of that moment, and how did you manage them?
Honestly, I don't know if it's because I was younger. I didn't really see it as that big of a day or that big of a night. Plus, it wasn't my first time in the NHL. I mean, I probably backed up, I don't know how many games, 15 games before having a chance to play. So I was on the ice with the guys day in and day out, practicing. I felt pretty comfortable even going in my first game. But yeah, the first game felt pretty good. Obviously, it was a bit of a bummer not getting the win. And then getting the chance to play in Tampa Bay and winning that game, that was a pretty crazy feeling. As good that feeling was, playing my first NHL game in Toronto at home, the feeling of winning the game in Tampa Bay was pretty surreal too.
You still got a puck?
I do have the puck. Yeah, it's at home. Yeah, they sent me the puck. Yeah, it's a special feeling. And then that's something I remember, but the guy that scored didn't necessarily remember. But so Kadri scored the game-winning goal in overtime that game, and I had the chance to play with him in Colorado this year. And I remember telling him, I was like, "Yeah, you scored the game-winning goal." And he didn't necessarily remember. It wasn't his first goal, but for me, it was something pretty special just to have the chance to play with him again and share it with him.
You talked about then moving on to the San Jose Sharks and working with Nabby in their American Hockey League affiliate. Battle, was that, you mentioned Battle. Were there any other things that you took away from that time? I mean, I've had the pleasure of being on the ice with Nabby a few times and seen some of the drills, some of the old school drills with the glove moving around, and there's some different things that he does that have some old school elements, but there's always a good takeaway to them. There's a reason that those drills had success for a lot of years. Did you any stories or any drills that you remember that the first time you saw it, you thought, what the heck are we doing? But then by the end of it, you're like, hey, this works.
Yeah, I mean, he's a special character. He's great to be on the ice with and to be around. The one drill I just remember just on top of my head. So I remember playing with Troy Grosnick my first year, and one drill we would work on a lot was, so basically if the guys would kind of drive the net coming from the top of the circle. So it's kind of like some goalies would shut down, some goalies would just play it like a mini breakaway kind of thing. We worked on that a lot. Like the guys would come down, then go across. So you have to follow them. Sometimes you have to seal your post. So it's quick feet. Sometimes you just have to take that little step out so you can cover. So I just remember on top of my head, that was one of the drill that we do a lot. And then we worked a lot too on screens, which is great. That might be something that we were struggling at the moment, but I just remember working a lot on screens with him. But yeah, like I said, we worked on a lot of things, and every drill that we did, everything had a purpose. And his big thing was making us move the body early on before the practice start, just to make sure you feel good. And then we would get into some shots and some rhythm.
Any on net drives off angle? Is he teaching any old school poke check tricks or what?
We tried them, but
it's a lost art.
I wasn't as comfortable as he was to do it. But yeah, I don't remember using it too often in games, but in practice, sometimes, yeah, if we felt like it, just go for it. And he's all about having fun, and I think it's what makes him great. As good as a goalie coach, he's like I said, he's one of the best goalie coach. But the fact that he likes to push you, obviously you got to work hard when you're on the ice. That's with everybody. But there's a way to work hard, work smart, but also have a lot of fun doing it. And I think that's what he's great at.
Okay, so ahead of this season, although it's so weird to say this season because it feels like it was so long ago, 2019-20 season, traded to Colorado. Yeah. You got another voice, Ryan Bach, I think, in the American Hockey League, and obviously UC Parkilla with the big club up in Colorado, another guy I've had the pleasure to talk to and really enjoyed those conversations. A guy who's broken new ground for European goalie coaches, being the first one to sort of come over and get that opportunity. Two-parter, I guess. How did the focus change? Were there anything you worked on in particular with him? But also, how do you manage this over these years, Antoine? You get different voices. Do you have a coach you work with in the summer, and then you've got these different voices from different organizations? Is that hard sometimes? Because everyone usually has a different opinion on your game. How do you stay true to yourself?
I think you just have to be open-minded. I never dealt with a goalie coach that forces anything on you. I've been lucky enough to have every goalie coach I had. If they see something that will benefit me, they'll come forward with it. Hey, maybe you try this, you try that. And if I'm not comfortable with it, then we would just move on. Some goalies do stuff differently. The first thing that comes to mind is around the net, VH, RVH. Like we're all different. We're all comfortable with different things. And all the goalies all the goalie coaches that I've had and all the goalie partners that I've had, we're all different. And no one pushed anything on me, forced anything on me. So I think that made everything easier. And like I said, you just have to be open-minded. But yeah, UC, I remember. So I didn't get the chance to work with them so much, obviously with the injuries and the fact that I was out for pretty much the whole year. I got traded after training camp. So I got to Colorado and worked with Bacher a little bit, but not a whole lot. I played one game, got shut down for a month, then went straight to the NHL for a week, went back, and that was it. So it was really quick. I didn't get the chance to work with them a whole lot. The one thing I remember with UC was just making sure that I was outside my blue paint and that my feet were set, not kind of backing out. Sometimes I had that tendency to back out and just move a little bit, drift a little bit. I think his big thing was really, and I remember we worked on that. I was there for a week, maybe. That's all we worked on for me, and it made a big difference, especially in that game against Vancouver. Guys would get the puck, get out, and stop my feet. Everything's set. It's a lot easier to move, to control your movements. And that was a thing we worked on, and it helps me a lot. In that short week, I already made huge strides in my game just by working on that.
How tough was that last year? Like to go through the injuries and then boom, you're up, and then you're just. Is it harder mentally? Are you struggling physically, like trying to play through things? What's the toughest part of going through that, especially as a pro? There's pressure there as a pro.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. It was contract year for me. I just got traded, so I got hurt in training camp with the Sharks. And then it just kind of got worse when I got to Colorado. The team shut me down for a month. I got shots in my hip, got the MRI, and I could tell the doctor told me, he's like, I'll do a shot in your hips. It might help, it might not. If it comes back, obviously the long-term plan is to get surgery. So my hips were not actually sore. It was actually my groin that was killing me big time. Like at that last point, I would go butterfly, and it's like if you stab me with a knife in the groin, I couldn't even move. So I got to the point where, yeah, it was tough. It was tough physically. After the shots and the month off, when I went back up in the NHL, I felt amazing. I felt great. Played 2 games, and then the next morning after that game in Vancouver, it was already back, and I could tell. And I didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to tell anyone, but I could tell. I knew it was probably coming. So I was hoping it would go away. I got sent down, and all week I could tell it was kind of getting worse, but I just got stopped for a full month before, so I didn't necessarily want to say anything. But deep down inside, I knew it was probably going to be surgery. And then, after surgery, obviously it was a tough decision to make. It's not a decision anyone want to make, and there's no good or bad time to get surgery. Obviously, with COVID, it turned out that it might be the best year to get the surgery, but it was something that, it was heartbreaking. I just played in the AHL weeks before, or 2 weeks before, and
I met you for obviously covering the Canucks, talking to you that night, the joy and excitement. Like I remember being so excited by your excitement level that it was contagious. As a reporter, you're kind of 20 years, you're a little bitter and whatever. You're just sticking a microphone in front of a guy's face. But that smile right there, I remember seeing that. And there was just, so to hear that you were hiding that and the next morning it came back, that actually kind of hurts to hear that. That had to be really gut wrenching.
Yeah, no, it was heartbreaking. Like I said, I just played in the NHL. Everything was back to normal. Hopefully I felt like I could really make some strides and have a good season in general. And it was heartbreaking. And then, but at the end of the day, you have to see the big picture. I couldn't perform to my full potential. I couldn't help. I wasn't helping the team by playing with that injury. I decided to go with surgery. It was a few tougher months physically, mentally. The guys would go on the road. You stay home. Yeah, it wasn't easy. My fiance was with me. I was lucky to have her with me. She took care of me and just support for at home. It was tough.
Did you have
watching the guys play?
I was going to say, did you have it done in Denver? Like, was it Dr. Philippon that did it?
I did. No, it wasn't Philippon. It was the Dr. Stephanie Mayer for Colorado Avalanche. So I got it done in Denver. Both times went great. No issues. And the rehab went as good as I could have hoped for. I was kind of ahead of schedule on both hips. Everything was going well, but it was heartbreaking. Just it was tough going to the rink every single day and watching the guys have fun. And as much that you want to have fun with them, it's tough. You're not necessarily part of anything. They go on the road for 2 weeks. You're at home by yourself for 2 weeks and just rehab, work hard in the gym. But so it was a tougher year, but I tried to make the most of it. I tried to work on my mental game, even in the gym, on some stuff that I wasn't necessarily good at. And then sometimes just you don't have the chance to watch the game from the stands. On the bench, it's different, but from the stands, it gives you a different view. So having the chance to look at the goalies playing the game, at the team, just from a different perspective, I think I learned a lot from that. So I was, like I said, I was just trying to make the best of a bad situation.
So I'm curious what you saw watching it, sort of bird's eye view, right? You're looking down on it from above, from the stands a little more, watching the game.
Yeah,
that's where we always watch the game, and it looks so easy up there. And I know it's not, but So I'm curious what you took away from that, Antoine.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Sometimes from the ice or even from the bench, the guys are right there. Everyone's like same level. Everything feels so crowded and different. Like let's say there's a power play. There's so many guys at the net, and it just feels so crowded. But then when you're up top, you can see the passing lane. You can see the guys are actually not as close as you think. So it gives you a whole different perspective on the whole thing. So it was good. Sometimes like I said, you're always practice every single day, then you're playing every game or you're on the bench, and everything just feels different. So taking a step back might have been a good thing.
Were you looking at, like, as you're watching the game from up there, did you find yourself did you put yourself in the crease? Like, were you making reads?
Sometimes I would make the read, or just on a play that the guys would make, I would just be thinking what I would have done, what I would have seen, just different things like that. So yeah, it wasn't easy, but it was I just tried to make the best of that bad situation.
Well, it sounds like I mean, you could have just sat there and moped, but you tried to, like you said, make the best. You were active in what you were doing. You weren't just watching the game. You're actually thinking through situations. That sounds like a pretty optimistic approach to me. You mentioned working on your mental game and in the gym. Is there anything you can give us on the mental game as you had this time? Any little tidbits for kids?
I mean, mental game, I've been working with a mental resilience coach, Matt Calderoni, for the past few years. Actually, since I signed with San Jose, I've been working with him. He's been great. I think for me, it was really just to go one day at a time, not overthink the whole thing, but just go and have fun, put a smile on my face, not go to the rink and bring bad energy. As much that it was painful for me to go through the surgery and missing a year in a really important year for me. At the end of the day, you're part of a team. You got to be a team player. You got to show up to the ring, and you can't bring bad energy. You gotta have some positivity and just do whatever you can to help the guys. I remember watching the game from the stands, and sometimes if I would see something in Werns or Miska's game, and I would go tell them and just talk to them about stuff and try to make everyone better, really. So it was it's really about, it's not about just yourself. It's this, you're part of a team. So you can't be selfish about it, even though it was kind of painful going through it. You just got to stay positive.
When did you manage to get back on the ice? I mean, I know I've talked to a lot of goalies who have gone through that hip surgery. The fact you're skating now so much sounds like everything's gone really well for you in terms of the recovery. Walk me through the timeline and how you're feeling right now.
So I'm feeling great. No issue. I'm moving great. My skating feels as good as it's ever been. I was planning on starting skating. I got cleared to skate by the doctor when COVID started. So that week in March 12th or whatever it is, I was supposed to start skating with the Eagles. Just the first part was just skating with no gear, then for a few weeks, then trying it with gear. So the plan was to start skating in March, and then COVID started. They took the ice out, so then I couldn't skate anymore. Then went home, and then everything was shut down. So that kind of I couldn't skate right off the bat. But so I would say the first time I skated was in early July or late June, and I had absolutely no pain whatsoever. I remember the first practice I did, even though I missed a full year, basically, I came on the ice like I just played last week. I had no issue. My tracking was great. My movement it didn't feel like I missed any time at all, which was really positive. That really brought my spirit back up a little bit, because you don't know how you're going to feel when you go back in. As much that I did some visualization and just watching the games and watching some tapes and working hard in the gym, and you don't know how you're going to feel. Will you be rusty or not? And I felt like I didn't miss any time. I got back out there and just normal practice, just like if I played the week before. So it was really positive. So yeah, I've been skating since then. And then since then, just the first few practice, obviously I was careful, just simple movement, not overstretching on anything. And then if I did, my hip would kind of hurt a little bit. But the more I skated, the better it got. And then it got to a point where right now where I got cleared by the doctor in late July. And since then, I have no restriction, no pain. I'm moving better than I've moved before. And just we could do some breakaway, some 2-on-1, some 2-on-0. I can do everything. I can stretch, and I'm not scared of anything. I'm not scared that it's gonna hurt or anything.
How much, like, are you smiling as you're going through those exercises and not feeling any pain? Because anybody who's had a nagging injury.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy to feel good out there and be with the guys. I missed so much time, and I've been away from the game for a while, and just that feeling of practicing with the guys, of talking to the boys, and just I miss that part a lot. So yeah, I'm really excited. And actually, that's just after missing a month early in the season. So after I played the opening night, I got shut down for a month, and then I went right back up to the NHL and had to play halfway to the game in Edmonton. I remember the first thing thinking, I was like, this is so much fun. Like, just having a lot of fun being out there with the guys and just playing a game. I remember just telling myself that how much fun it was and how much I miss that. And sometimes that's the thing too. Injuries is never a thing that you want to go through, but missing so much time made me realize how much, it makes you realize how much sometimes you take stuff for granted. How much I missed being a part of a team, having fun with the guys, playing the game. So yeah, I'm hungry to get back out there. I'm excited, and I'm really looking forward for the next season to start, hopefully sooner than later.
Last one. I guess I wasn't thinking in terms of coming back off the injury. I knew you had the injury when I asked you about Sense Arena, but I'm guessing the ability to work on your tracking in your hands without having to go up and down in terms of wear and tear on the hips, as good as they feel, that's probably, like, if you'd had this earlier, it probably would have been a good thing too, right? Because that's one of the biggest.
That would have been ideal after the surgery. Whenever I could move better a month or two after surgery, for sure, it would have been huge. Yeah, it's great. Like I said, it's a great tool. You don't put your body through any wear and tear. You can work on your tracking, and yeah, like you said, I really think that after the surgery would have been the perfect tool to keep working on my game and to keep my brain active without putting any wear and tear on my body, on my hips. Obviously, with the Sense Arena, you can, if you have synthetic ice, or even if you go on the ice, you can put and then actually go down on a lower shot, which is probably better feeling, or it might be a little easier. But the fact that you can also do it just in your living room without going down, just working on your tracking, on your box control. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm shocked by how realistic the whole thing is.
And last one, I promise. Gear. I didn't ask you if you're a big gear guy, but that's the one thing about new team. You get new colors, you get new masks. Who's your painter? You got any ideas? Like, are you a guy that thinks about these things, or is it just let somebody else decide? Or you got any themes? Like, everybody's different on this one, but we got a lot of gearheads.
Yeah, so I'm probably the worst guy for gear. I don't know anything. I grew up playing the game, but not focusing on gear. And in the queue, I remember my first year, I didn't even pick my gear. Gatineau, when I played for the Olympics, they actually decided I was playing with Bauer that year. I remember they sent me Bauer. I never played with Bauer, sent me Bauer. Then I got traded to PEI, and I remember they decided it's CCM, and they were just straight white. I didn't pick the color, did nothing. So I've never been a big gear guy.
Okay, that's fair.
But yeah, my mask, the same. So Sylvie Poitras paints my mask. She's out of Quebec. She's been painting my mask. She's amazing. She still will paint the next mask, and she's been doing that since I'm 19 years old. She does an amazing job. And then for gear, I decided to switch to Brian's for next season. I tried it 2 years ago, really enjoyed it, and then whenever CCM, the whole switch, and then I missed a year, and so I decided I thought it was a good time. I've been playing with them all summer and loved it. So I'll make a switch for next season.
Well, a good friend of ours, Chris Joswiak, will be your pro rep then. I'm sure you've already had a chance to meet Jaws. He's one of the best in the business, so that's awesome. Well, it's okay. Not everybody has to be a gearhead. We can live with that. At least you were honest about it.
Yeah, no, I know. I tried to learn. I got better over the last few years, I think. But yeah, I'm not necessarily a gear nerd. I like it. I don't think I grew up necessarily paying too much attention. I think that was the problem. Some guys grew up and they look at everything, and I didn't grow up like this, so I wasn't very good, but I did get better over the last few years for sure. Just making some small adjustment on my gear, and you talk with the guys and you learn. Some guys go, hey, I got this setup. And you're like, oh, really? I remember playing with the same setup my first 5 years in the league. It was like 5 strap. It would take me forever to put the pads. Like I had like 1 at the bottom, 2, 3. Yeah, I think I have 5 straps, and 3 of them were pretty much useless. But it would just take me forever to put the pads. So I remember when I got to San Jose, I think it was my first or second year, I was talking to the rep. He's like, yeah, let's try this setup now. I was like, I don't know. I'm not very big. That's the other thing with me. I have a hard time switching stuff. I'm comfortable with old stuff. Chest protector, I played with the same one for 2 years or 3 years that one time. At the end, it would just hurt getting the shots in practice, but I was just so comfortable in it. I'm not very good with trying new gear. So yeah, he made the switch, and since then I'm like, geez, I wish I did that 2 years ago. It's so much easier putting the pads, and the other straps were just useless being there. So yeah, I'm trying to learn.
That's good. Hey, as long as, and if we can help educate too, just let us know. We got lots of articles at ingoalmag.com with all the newest, latest, and greatest. Antoine, this has been fantastic. Yeah. Really enjoyed the time. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to sort of catch our audience up, share some of your insights on the position. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I've mentioned it a couple of times, and just the fact that he wasn't really into the gear, and like people would just like say, "You're gonna wear this." Teams would, "You're gonna wear this." But my favorite part was, it took me so long to do up my pads because I had all these straps, and 2 of them weren't even doing anything. It's wild to think that a guy can just go out and play at that level and not have any real connection to his gear. It just blows me away.
Well, he's learning, and he said he's trying to get more up to date on it. It's funny though. I'm telling you, Darren, and it's a good thing is, as he said there, a little scoop for you, Antoine Bibeau switching to Brian's and Brian's Custom Sports for his set this upcoming season. He sent us his first attempt at a design on the customizer, and perfect for him because there's a pad that's easy to get in and out of. All those, the Velcro straps, one of the first adopter of Velcro as far as the strapping, going away from the leather and the metal. How many guys, old school guys that we talk to that are just like, that is literally one of the reasons they make the switch finally, is like, I can't believe how much faster I can get dressed. Mm-hmm. Your buddy down there in
the NHL.
Yeah, your buddy down there in Vegas is one of like the last guys, especially after Connor Hellebuck switched over to the new strapping in Winnipeg this year with CCM. Your buddy Flower is one of the last guys, but as he told me like a year and a half ago, he's like, at this point, I just like him because I can have my red leather and it's a little bit of a different look, and I just want to be unique.
You're right. He does have the full leather strapping compliments, and I'm with you. You do put those pads on a whole lot faster, and you take them off a whole lot. Like 2 Velcros, boop boop.
Well, it's important in COVID times too, right? Because you only get, especially, right. I'm not playing right now, but my beer league, the guy who's filling in for me at beer league tells me he has 15 minutes to get it on and 15 minutes to get it off after the game. I usually need 15 minutes to catch my breath after a game. So
foam roller, that's 15 minutes for you.
Yeah, I'd have to. So now you know what would happen if I was actually playing. I'd be foam rolling in the parking lot for all to see.
Guarantee you would.
The idea, by the way, the Sensorina and Sensorina.com, do you use your game stick or do you use your backup stick when you imagine what you're holding in your hand there, Woody?
He needs a third stick. He needs a virtual
stick.
I would have to say, I'm going to just let the insults bounce right off, and I'd have to say that given how realistic Hutch tells me this feels and how much it feels like you're actually in the game, I'm thinking I'm going to need my game stick.
The connection to Sensorina, though, just being able to practice Bibeau, work and train and recover, like that's perfectly. It kind of came together at the same time, but wow, well, what another use for that product?
Yeah, and just some really good synergy for us. We'll take it. Obviously, when I reached out to Antoine right just before he signed with the Carolina Hurricanes, and you heard it in the interview there. I was covering him in Vancouver when he got that win in the NHL, and we had a quick conversation after the game, and the joy was palpable. So to hear him talk about the disappointment he went through, finding out just over a week later he needed hip surgery, was kind of tough, and you can understand how emotional it would be. But when we set up this interview and chatting, it was before we had gone through the process with Sensorina in terms of bringing them on as a sponsor. So just a nice bit of happy circumstances that here's a guy that's used it. And to be honest, before we started the interview, I said, "Hey, I saw you've been using it." Like, I was actually under the impression that he'd only had it for a week or so. So I'm like, if you're not comfortable talking about it yet, just no problem. And he's like, "Are you kidding? I've had it for," said he had it for at least a month or maybe 2 months. And he couldn't, he was eager to have the opportunity to talk about it. So again, that's the type of validation that led us to this partnership. And I'm glad it sort of all came together for this episode.
Well, it's been fun. It's been a record-setting podcast as I look at the time right now. And when you look at the number of parcels that are in this podcast, Greg Harrison, Dave Gunnarsson, Bob Tativa from Sensorina, Cam Matwa from Source for Sports Surrey, the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, and of course, Antoine Bibeau. It's been a lot of fun, a lot packed in here. Trick or treat. The new trick is Sensorina, sensorina.com, and the treat is our continued relationship at Goalie Utopia with Source for Sports Surrey. Thanks for listening. Look forward to chatting with you again next week on In Goal Radio, the podcast, presented by Source for Sports Surrey, the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com.